Welcome to Module 2. By the end of this module, you will have nailed down your profitable niche. You're going to know exactly the type of companies that you're going to be reaching out to and the decision makers within those companies that you'll be targeting. And what's most exciting is that you are going to choose the title that you're going to use across your website, your LinkedIn, and all of your marketing. The difference between a low-paid copywriter that's struggling to get by and one that is highly profitable and built up is that they have a copywriting niche and a very well-defined title that defines them. And by the end of this module, you'll have that too. But first, let's talk about why you need to choose a niche to begin with. And I don't mean how some people think of niches, which is, I write blog posts, I write white papers, I write product descriptions. That's not the type of niche I'm talking about. The niche I'm talking about is your topic or your specialty. It's the industry that you write in that sets you apart from every other copywriter out there. It's what prevents you from being a generalist. So you need to choose a niche for 3 main reasons. Number 1 is your positioning. So other than building your website, your niche is how customers are going to find you. So having a niche helps you appear in their search results and make sure that that client knows you're a match for them before they even contact you. And that kind of goes into the next point, which is how you position yourself. So in order for clients to find you, you have to be correctly positioned. Marketing expert Amy Porterfield, who I follow, always says that if you're speaking to everyone, you are speaking to no one. So when you label yourself as a generalist copywriter, you really are risking getting lost in the crowd. And no, niching doesn't, limit your reach. It actually helps you stand out in a sea of other writers, and it increases your odds of being chosen. Your niche is also going to help you establish yourself as the expert in your field. So serious problems require working with specialists, and people that have specialized knowledge tend to be more expensive in our society. I mean, look at your, healthcare. If you look at the back of your insurance card, if you go to the general practitioner, your copay might be $15. But if you go to a specialist, the price automatically moves up. So when we go to professionals who specialize in one area, we conclude that they are the most knowledgeable in that field. We trust them immediately, and we understand that we need to invest more in them. When you are an expert in a field, the fastest way to gain their confidence is just by telling clients, hey, I've helped companies just like you. It's also about efficiency. It's about what your life is going to be like once you are a full-time freelance copywriter. Being a generalist in copywriting is not efficient, right? So you don't want to be shifting between industries and researching all these different topics because it's just more time consuming. And remember, as a freelancer, your time is valuable. Time is money. So if you choose to just start with content like writing blogs, which is a great way to start out, you'll be paid a flat rate. That's what I recommend, is that you choose, choose pricing that is per flat project rate. And if you spend too much time researching and doing all this preparation for these posts, you're not going to be able to make money on other projects and clients. But when you write for one industry, you get to know it inside and out, and your knowledge compounds, and it makes it easier and makes it quicker to complete these assignments, and you're just less likely to burn out. Before I get into how to choose your niche, you need to understand the difference between a B2B niche and a B2C niche, business to business or business to consumer. Your niche is going to fall into one of these 2 categories. And I'm going to explain the difference between these 2 categories, and you will know by the end of this which lane you want to choose. But just know that you will fall into one of these 2 categories. So B2B stands for business to business, and it means that your writing is going to sell to companies that buy products. Whether they're buying software or office supplies, Your writing is still aimed at a person, don't get me wrong, but you're going to speak to somebody's job title in your copywriting. You're going to speak to what their job responsibilities are rather than their personal life. Now, business to consumer, also known as B2C, is the flip side. It's writing for individuals who buy products the way that I go on Amazon and buy my vitamins and supplements. I'm buying it for myself, not on behalf of a company. So the main difference is, and why these fell into two different categories in the marketing and copywriting world, was that the way a business buys is slightly different from the way a consumer buys. And I'm going to explain to you an example just so you can visualize this. So let's say you're targeting somebody like Gina. She's an HR employee that needs to upgrade her company's HR software. So Gina's technically the one in charge of the purchase, but she needs to consult her boss, her colleagues, and the finance department before making a purchase. So Gina has to involve several people within that buying process. Therefore, it's more complex. It's a more complex sale. So the B2B material that you will be writing as a copywriter that targets Gina is going to address the complexities of her purchasing process. Now, when this same woman, Gina, gets home from work and she starts shopping online, let's say she's looking for a Peloton bike. Now she's a consumer, right? So the advertisements that are written for her, for spin bikes or Pelotons, they're going to touch on different pain points, and she'll be making the decision on her own, right? To make this purchase, all she needs to do is pull out her credit card and make the purchase on her own. So because a B2B, business to business decision is more complex, it's going to take more skill and more understanding as a writer. And that's why B2B copywriting tends to pay more than B2C. So deciding between B2C and B2B will really come down to, who do you want to speak to? Do you want to speak to Gina, who's making purchases for the HR department, or the Gina that comes home and is buying vitamins online? If you're building on a professional background, let's say, you're doing what I did, which is leaving a corporate 9-to-5 career, you will pretty much know how to speak to B2B buyers because you've encountered them at your past jobs. Like, you've spoken to Larry in accounting, and you've maybe talked to the CEO of your company. So you can really understand what motivates them as buyers. So this is the simple process for choosing your niche. And don't worry, you're going to get a handout that's actually going to help you flesh this out on paper, but just know that you'll be following these steps. So you're going to choose whether you want to be B2B or B2C, like I mentioned before. The second step is taking an inventory of your background and your experience. So the best route is to really build on what you've already done in your life. Your past experience should actually take precedence over your passions. And I know that sounds like a bit of a downer, but it's actually critical. Like, where have you worked in the past? What do you have concrete experience doing? So you can choose something you are interested in. It happens, people do it, that's fine, but we're here trying to land high-paying clients as soon as possible, and the number one reason for selecting an area you have an experience in is just because of confidence. So being a new writer without, professional writing experience, it can shake your confidence, especially when you're pitching clients for the first time, and I know that it shook mine. So if you've clearly demonstrated your writing ability with your portfolio pieces, which we'll go into, but you can also share with this client your personal experience related to their industry, they will be sold on you. There's not much they will be able to question. So passion for the subject is amazing, but just make sure that you confidently tell them why you'd make a valuable addition to their marketing team, right? And what your past experiences can do for them. Now, the next step you want to do is to research the companies in your chosen market. So you want to see who the big players in your industry are. So I niched down pretty far and focused on software that was in the sales enablement space. and that sounds maybe jargony if you're not in the tech world, but the big players or the big companies in my market were companies like Salesforce, HubSpot, SalesLoft. These are all software companies. So software as an industry is really broad. I chose sales organization software since I had experience with that type of software. No, I'm not a super technical person. I have no engineering background. That stuff is like way over my head, but I had experience using it for jobs. So I really wanted to leverage that when talking to clients. But anyway, researching your target company's industry really helps you narrow down your niche. You don't want to be super broad. You want to make this very niched down. So Google the big industry players and you want to target their competition. So for me, I found a ton of smaller CRM companies that wanted to be the next Salesforce. Like I didn't go and start pitching Salesforce immediately. That would be super hard. But there's a bunch of companies that want to be like Salesforce. These are the smaller fish and they're great companies to get started with. You just, for this step, really want to see, okay, what type of companies can I see myself writing for? Okay. The last step is to check for viability. If you know what you want to write about, but you don't know if there's a market for it or if you'll really make good money, you want to Google and check for viability. So the higher paying industries are professional services like IT and accounting, computer, financials, logistics, pharmaceuticals, medical, construction. So you want to think in terms of, okay, what are the known high-paying industries, the ones that will have big budgets. And then you want to make a list of 5 ideal clients who you would want to write content for. Visit their site and see, are they actually publishing content? Do they have a content marketing strategy? Does it look like they, hire writers? If they're creating pieces of writing, somebody is writing them. You want to check to see if they're posting blogs. Do they offer free downloads like white papers? And do the topics they're writing about align with your niche and what you're interested in and what your background is? So their existing content is going to show that, okay, they have a need for more content because this is part of a greater strategy. They may not be hiring at that moment, or they may have employees that are writing articles for them, but it doesn't matter. It just means they have a content strategy that you can potentially contribute to, and that means that there's a market for what you want to do. So here's the niche formula. You want to start with B2B or B2C. Having that in your title will be really specific and really capture clients' attention. You want to choose the industry, whether it be tech, real estate, health. But then once you choose your industry, you want to niche down even one step further to what your specialty is within that industry. So for me, tech was my industry, but software was my specialty. Maybe if you're a health and wellness writer, you can say, I'm a health and wellness writer in the holistic healing space or in the vitamins and supplements space. You want to make it specific. These handouts will be available to you, the formula. I also have examples of niches that I want to show you guys that could really start you to brainstorm and get clear and get inspiration on what type of niche you want to choose. So if education was your industry, you can see below, okay, there's higher education, there's ESL, foreign language learning, there's online learning. There's so many different areas within a broad niche like education, and you want to make sure that you niche down and that you are not broad.